Stories of people fighting their way out of poverty and ending up as superstars are so inspiring. This video is about UFC fighters who did exactly that. Number 5. Anderson Silva. Silva was born into a poor family and was sent to live with his aunt and uncle at a young age. The Spider worked at McDonald's when he was younger, but he later switched to fighting MMA professionally, where he amassed an 11-2 record before falling out with the famous Chute Boxe team in 2003. Combined with the Pride organization abruptly giving him the cold shoulder, caused Silva to become disillusioned with the sport, and he began talking about returning to work at McDonald's. Thankfully, Rodrigo Nogueira refused to let such a talented fighter go to waste and helped Silva in resuming his fighting career. A few years later, the UFC signed Silva, who quickly won the middleweight title and defended it 10 times over the next 7 years, cementing his status as a living legend. Silva's basic salary per fight has reached as high as $800,000, and he was responsible for several events with over 1 million pay-per-view sales, which has made him a millionaire many times over. Number 4. Junior dos Santos. As a 10-year-old, Junior dos Santos was already working a variety of jobs while going to school in the tiny town of Caçador, Brazil, to assist his struggling single mother, a cleaning lady, put food on the table for their family. However, experiencing poverty only seemed to make the young Junior more determined to create a better life for himself and his loved ones. The 6'4" heavyweight stepped into an MMA gym for the first time in 2006, and it quickly became clear to the coaches that dos Santos had real potential, so it wasn't long before he began fighting professionally. In 2008, JDS would make it to the UFC, where he would go on a 9-fight winning streak, including winning the heavyweight title against Cain Velasquez with 8.4 million viewers. Dos Santos has earned several $1 million over the course of his career, more than enough to live up to a standard he could only have dreamed of as a child. Number 3. Dominick Cruz. In 2010, Cruz won the WEC bantamweight title and successfully defended the belt twice, but financially he was still living off the hand. Cruz lived then in a tiny one-room pool house, furnished with not much more than a mattress. Cruz's Spartan lifestyle began to pay off when the UFC started a bantamweight division with Cruz installed as the champion. But just as Cruz was to make millions in a trilogy fight against his old rival Uriah Faber at UFC 148, the disaster struck with a series of career-threatening knee injuries that forced the star to miss nearly 3 years of action. In 2016, the Dominator returned to the octagon against TJ Dillashaw, where he reclaimed his title. Cruz has so far earned over $2 million on his MMA fights and continues to earn a base salary of $350,000 per bout. In addition to his role as a fighter, Cruz has established himself as one of the very best analysts in the game. Number 2. Miesha Tate. In 2007, when Tate chose to drop out of medical school to pursue a career as a professional fighter, women's MMA was still in its infancy. Tate sacrificed a lot during that time, living for 2 years in a camper on a property that gave her access to a gym whenever she wanted, while living fight to fight for little money. A few years later, the hard work began to pay off when Tate became Strikeforce's bantamweight champion, leading to a fight with rising star Ronda Rousey in 2012. A year later, the UFC finally allowed women to compete, and Miesha's life was forever changed. Tate would go on to become the second most popular fighter in women's MMA, eventually winning the UFC bantamweight title in 2016 against Holly Holm. Tate then headlined the historic UFC 200 event, earning a base salary of $500,000 and a champion's cut of the 1.2 million pay-per-view buys that night. Number 1. Francis Ngannou. Ngannou grew up in poverty in Cameroon. From the age of 9, Francis worked in a sand quarry to support his single mother and siblings. However, Ngannou's passion for boxing and determination to lift his family out of poverty prompted him to travel to Europe to pursue a fighting career. After a long and arduous journey, Francis arrived in Paris as a homeless man and was forced to sleep in a parking lot while looking for a boxing gym to train at. After finding a gym, Francis met Fernand Lopez, an MMA factory coach, who persuaded Ngannou to switch sports. Francis was given MMA gear by Lopez, slept in the gym, and made his professional debut after just a few months of training. Ngannou was 5-1 before being signed by the UFC in 2015, and just 6 years later, the Predator found himself as the UFC heavyweight champion and one of the promotion's biggest stars with millions in the bank. If you like the content, please consider subscribing to the channel, share and like, it means a lot. Check out other inspiring personalities and great achievements in the video about well-known UFC fighters who chose to retire on their own terms. Link in the description.